SCHIZO FM. We are reporting from the end of history, and I'm here with Owen and Bethany Tabor today. We're going to talk about the fact that theatre kids occupy our government, and we live under a gerontocracy.
Incredible intro.
So, Bethany, anyway, so you have to forgive me for being rude, but you have theatre kid energy.
I do. I know it.
Yeah. You were a theatre kid back in high school.
I definitely was. Yeah. And I think many people who have presences online tend to have theater kid energy. I mean, I think that there's like a lot of people that I've like privately messaged, like I've come to find out like, oh, they went to a performing arts school as well. Or like they were like, you know, very active in band or whatever. I think that it's I think that those of us who have presence are definitely like have definitely had like careers like that. I mean, I was a theater kid in school, but I was also a professional ballet dancer. So I've also just like grown up in the theater too. So used to being on stage for what it's worth, for better or worse.
It's weird. I don't know, Owen, like it's like an island. Because I was part of the group who was like the computer kids, the kids who hang out at the library, that sort of stuff. I was definitely part of that crew. I don't know what you were, Owen.
I definitely wasn't. I played in a band, so does that?
Oh, you're way cooler than we are. Oh my God.
Does that count? Yeah. So it's kind of performing in some way. Yeah.
But performing in a band is cooler because it's not so like top down and like coordinated, I guess. I mean, I feel like people who are in a band they're like way more agentic than people who are like in theater and like doing musical theater and stuff, because
that's a good insight, because I feel like, I don't know, looking into this topic, I realized like how much the theater kids, whatever that is, they're always looking for approval. They're always looking for someone else's approval. And the reason for that is because they literally go to auditions and they have to get someone else's approval, you know?
That's good. That's so true.
It's true though, isn't it? That's the crazy thing.
Yes, yeah, it is very, very true. Oh man. Triggered. You've already triggered me. So we're starting out strong.
Anyway, so I don't know. The definition of a theatre kid is someone who like spent all their time doing theatre stuff in high school, and then we come to gerontocracy, which is ruled by the eldest in society. And I think there's for some reason in the US there's a real connection between those two things, because right now we have Biden, who's the oldest president of all time, at 80 years old. We have someone like Mitch McConnell, 81. We have rest in peace, Dianne Feinstein at 90 years old. And then someone like Bernie Sanders, even the outsider, Bernie Sanders is 81. You compare that, and I mean, I don't know about you, Owen, if you want to talk about the Irish stuff, but Rishi Sunak's like 43.
Our prime minister is less than 50, maybe 50 something. So we have a young one as well. So it seems to be a real American thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why.
Why is that? Why is that, Bethany?
I think that no millennial or Gen X is interested in running. They're interested in starting startups. I mean, that's just like where that's where everybody who is like of that like early 40s into 50s age, they've all like gone to work in software, or they've become lawyers, or it's all like private business. I think that there's in the so-called Camelot years, which is the John F. Kennedy years in America, that mid-century-ish, like 1950s into the 1960s, you had strong trust in the U.S. government. That came from the fact that the U.S. government won World War II and became a global superpower. So people were interested in being in politics. People wanted to be the ruler of the global superpower. And then the global superpower then supported privatization, private businesses, founding private businesses, and this whole like, you can be in America and you can like start your own company and be an entrepreneur and then gain great success. And so then that's like been everybody's trajectory. Everybody's wanted to like do the start the startups and start the companies and all, and everything like that. And so then the power, us as a global superpower has totally declined. There's zero trust in government. There's like nobody wants to be in politics because politics is wrapped up in a bureaucratic hell. But then this gets into an insight that I've been having recently over the last like couple weeks maybe, is like recently, ever since Trump's election, there's been this interest in hyperlocal activism and hyperlocal politics. Like people in America, it's really interesting. People with Trump's election, everybody fully gave up on the federal government, and they just wanted to they wanted to focus on state government and also like city councils, municipalities, things like that. And so I think that the theater kid occupied like millennials, early millennials and Gen Xers who like were part of the musical theater cadre of people. They want to be in they want to be in like their state senators or like city councilors, things like that. I've noticed that as a sort of emerging trend.
Why is that? Because they're all about community and they want to be like the center of the community. What's that all about? Like pathologically, what's that all about?
Probably like narcissism and the seeking approval. Like, I mean, like just wanting to. Let me gather some thoughts here. They also want to have everybody's conception of their own personal power was thrown out the window when Trump got elected, because everybody thought that Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in. Everyone was shocked that Donald Trump actually won. And Donald Trump winning symbolized something for people that, well, it was a pearl clutching event because people were
pearl clutching event. It's a perfect way of putting it. It was a pearl clutching event. Kind of like Brexit in the UK, it was definitely a pearl clutching event, you know?
Yeah. There was a whole like, I mean, this turn toward sort of the right wing, toward conservatism, shocked people, and they realized that their progressive attitude was no longer on top and was no longer the winning paradigm. And so they want to create a spectacle. There's this it's like this primacy of the spectacle. They want to create a spectacle because there's also in theater and musical theater, it's totally top down with like the director is, you have the director who lays out all the roles for people, right? Like reads the script and figures out how it should be acted. And then the actors know their roles and play their roles. And so
that is the interesting connection, because the connection there is that there was a news media who were expecting the play to go a certain way.
Yeah.
And it didn't go that way. And the theater kid cannot connect that gap, That's a gap that cannot be like connected. And we're reeling from that still, It's weird because we've got like a weird bastardized version of what the Hillary government should have been. But we've got this Mr. Magoo, this corpse who's like running the US government now.
Yeah, he is really a corpse. Weekend at Bernie's.
So here's the darkest thing for me is like, I don't like view Biden as like an evil guy. I just think like it's kind of like putting my granddad into like elected office. Like I'm just like, he's not built to do the thing. Like he's not.
It's elder abuse.
His thing,
Yeah, it's totally. It looks horrible. It looks like elder abuse up there. And my parents are actually quite conservative, and my mom really like talks about Biden as though he's evil. And I'm like, he's not doing anything. He is not he's.
I don't think he's in the room, man.
He's not. He's absolutely not. Like he goes. People are like, oh, he's going to Delaware. He's like on vacation or whatever. He's in his cryo tank. Like he's literally being frozen and preserved. So for the next time that he has to make a public appearance, he's not He's definitely not there. And that's also very theatrical. That feels very theatrical, feels very much like it's a like, I mean, it feels like a puppet, like a marionette theater.
You guys want to see Biden on a holiday in Delaware?
Okay.
Mr. President, made
Oh,
Dr.
yeah,
Biden, how was
Do you think that's a bit of a performance though? Like the clown, you know? I think the advantage of Biden after COVID happened and after Trump was seen, like Trump was already kind of given this kind of supervillain character to him, and then when COVID happened and it was like, where did this virus come from, and are we all going to die? Is the end of the world? And then Biden came in as a kind of savior, but like a savior of incompetence. Like he was so stupid and so kind of like harmless in a way. At least like that was the image that was being given off, that he was kind of harmless and he couldn't like, you know, he's not going to save the world. He's not going to recreate like, you know, the golden years of the West or anything, but he's not going to destroy everything. He's too stupid and old, you know? So like, I actually think they might play up this, you know, a character of Biden, because it might actually get kind of votes, especially along the kind of like the liberal middle classes. They might.
This is where we're so
want
detached
someone like that.
from reality. We're so detached from reality because under Biden, you've had a fucking war in Eastern Europe, a proxy war in Eastern Europe, and potentially like a full-on world war in Middle East.
Like, but it's a performance. Like it makes you think that this is just another Mr. Magoo stumble. It's like, no, it's the end of the world. You know.
Mental,
so
isn't it?
do you think that he's like, Biden is supposed to be comedic relief, like other than instigating wars, he's supposed to be comedic relief?
No, I think that the American empire is on its last legs and it has to find someone to be the president, and he was literally their only choice. I mean, look at someone like Kamala Harris. Like she's nothing. She's nothing. She's hopeless. Like they just had to find someone to be in the seat.
But I see Owen's point though about like they have to also play up this like innocence and this like strange quirkiness, because I also see it with Kamala Harris, like her bizarre, when she's like, you know, absolutely out of her mind on drugs and she's going off on her weird tangents, like that is so, and people.
Wait, what drugs? That's a big accusation to make.
I know it's a big accusation. It's not like, but she seems hot. Like she seems like she's high on something. Like she's on like 20 Xanax.
I'm sorry, Bethany, but I think like most American women seem like they're high on Adderall, like most of the time.
Most of the time, sure, yeah, but Kamala, it's something different when it's Kamala Harris, the vice president, and like everybody wants to be like, oh, the first like ethnically ambiguous, the first like Black vice president, the first Black woman to be like high-ranking office or whatever. Like you want, like the idea is to. You want them to be presidential. You want them to, you would think that you would want them to look sort of above, you know, like cream of the crop, above average. You wouldn't want Kamala Harris to look like the average American woman who is.
Yeah, she doesn't want to be mid or anything like that, you know.
You would want her to not go off on these crazy tangents, but you've heard her, right? Like she goes off and she talks about, she like tries to be poetic, or like she just, when she speaks, it doesn't make any sense. And that also feels like a spectacle. It also feels like they're trying to, I don't know, like have her come across as sort of like seemingly innocent or whatever. The other thing too is that the media will, the thing with like under Biden, he's like participating in these wars and instigating these wars, instigating proxy wars. But like the media will have you believe that it's all because of Congress, which was up until the empty empty Speaker of the House. They'll have you believe that it's the Republican majority Congress that is instigating these wars. Like they don't want you to think that it's Biden or whoever Biden's handlers are.
I agree. I think that Kamala Harris is like peak theater kid, you know. It's like someone who's like all about the style rather than substance. She'll like read some like weird stuff and then chuckle and think it's like, I don't know, it's very strange. But I would also argue that it doesn't really matter who's in charge of the American empire, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, because you know the whole system is designed to, you know, propagate its own power, you know.
That's true. And none of them are like, even the people who are in Congress, those people are a little bit young, like can skew a little bit younger. I mean, you have AOC, who's like the youngest. She's like been writing on that for forever, like youngest woman POC, youngest POC woman, I guess is how, anyway, to be elected or whatever. And then she's part of that whole squad where it's like other women in their 30s who are elected to Congress.
We're big fans on this show. We love AOC. We love her. She's like our political paragon.
But also very much addicted to the spectacle. Like she's like, and AOC.
That's the crazy thing, because like even if I was a leftist, I don't know if I wouldn't buy into that, because it's like she almost wants just like the approval of the group as opposed to actually doing something, contributing something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, she wants have social media clout. That's
Owen, can I tell you something crazy? So me and Owen used to go to we used to study philosophy at the University of London, right? And basically I paid £25 to go see Zizek talk at University of London. This was like back, maybe it was like 2018, right, Owen?
It was just before COVID. It was like literally like 6 weeks before COVID happened. Yeah.
Maybe it was like 2019. Anyway,
2019. Yeah.
Doesn't matter because I watched Zizek talk and he was like, I love AOC because I love young Latina women. That's literally the quote that he said. Rubbing his eyes and went, I like the girl. I also like the girl. And he was talking about Thunberg, which is really funny.
I think
you're talking about Greta Thunberg?
Yeah.
Afterwards, he wasn't.
Zizek has a thing for like theater kid women. He has a thing for it. It's weird. I don't know why, but yeah, he's always talking about Greta Thunberg, and he's always talking about AOC, thinking they're like the future or something. They're the next thing. But like that actually brings up a good point, because the kind of ruling class, I feel, are very old, and like they're gonna die sooner or later, and like who's gonna take over? Because it seems like as bad as they are as kind of leaders and politicians, like the next generation of potential rulers, like the AOCs or whatever, they seem kind of like so detached from reality that you can't really imagine them actually being allowed to have access to the nuclear codes and so on. You know, like, so like what's going to happen? Is AI just going to rule us? Like, what's going to happen? You know?
Well, and the problem is that AI probably would rule us, because the younger, if by some strange miracle the Overton window shifts and we suddenly get a lot of really young kids, like a lot of Zoomers, running for office in America, Zoomers literally don't know how to think for themselves or like function like in any, like they will just ask ChatGPT for anything. Like they get all of any information that they need. Like they, instead of asking other people for advice or like asking for an answer, trying to look for an answer, they will go to AI before they go to other people. So that's,
and this is a big issue that has been propagated by, I would say, the older sect, but has also been something that the Zoomers are kind of into, is they defer their like intelligence to a lot of different things.
What do you mean?
They just like both like boomers and young people, they all like defer their intelligence to Google. They like say, oh, okay, whatever Google says is like what to do. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is like people like they defer their intelligence. People aren't thinking anymore, basically, is what I'm saying. Old people and young people aren't thinking anymore. They just like defer to whatever the computer tells them to do, whatever the AI tells them to do, that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Note
And
the presence
that
of a quorum. We will now vote to report the Defense Appropriations Bill favorably, subject to amendment. The clerk will call the roll.
Senator Feinstein.
You say aye.
Pardon me?
Aye.
Yeah.
Just say aye.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense. And it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just
Great.
aye.
Thank you.
Senator Durbin, Senator Reid.
just say aye.
AI.
It's funny. You laugh, but this is not. I don't think this is funny. As someone who's under occupation by the American government, I do not think it's funny. You might think it's funny as someone who's part of the ruling elite. I do not think it's funny.
My laughter is complete stress laughter. It's it's the nervous laughing when you're in a hellscape. Yeah, no, it's really, really bad, and it's not going to get any better until there is like a massive conflict, and there's going to be a massive conflict, and will probably be violent in one way or the other. Like in whether that's like actual like weapons violence or like just massive.
That is a great point to make because okay, so I actually want to ask you guys about this because I was really curious about this. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Is that imagine if like World War III does actually break out? Bethany, you're obviously exempt being a woman. You know, you've got the female privilege of not doing this. I think me and Owen are probably a bit old for the draft. I don't know. I feel like we're.
What? How old do you think we are?
I just think like, you know, well, I don't know.
If you're under 45 and there's a draft, you're getting drafted.
Guess we're off to it. I don't know. Like,
I presume you're not 45.
I don't know. I feel like I would not fight. I would not fight for Rishi Sunak. I'm sorry.
No.
That's the other thing is. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, there was a poll going around recently, and it was like a Western. It was like all over countries. It was like, would you fight for your country? Would you like fight and risk death for your country? And the percentage in most Western European and America was like very low compared to like Russia and China and all these other countries. So, you know, good luck getting the actual recruits if that does happen. You know?
Yeah, that's the problem is that like it's not just about like wanting to. It's not about elections. It's not about electing the right prime minister, or the right president. It's about like whether people are going to feel enough patriotism for their country to like or loyalty to their leaders. Like nobody feels any loyalty to their leaders because their leaders are totally detached. Their leaders are creating a spectacle, and they are forcing people into. Everybody on the world stage is an actor seeking approval. Everybody on the world stage is a theater kid seeking approval, and also looking to a script to give them give them an answer on what to do, and the script needs to tell them what to do. And then they alienate the rest of the world because actors alienate spectators. In theater, you have the people on stage, and then you have the fourth wall, and the spectators are alienated and don't have any role but they have to be part of that world. They have to be part of the narrative, and they're forced into participation simply by their observing of it.
You just blew my mind. It's so true that like the people like, so here's the thing is I've always been like a bit like moody about like, oh, all the people who are on COVID are doing, but they are literally theater kids waiting for the instructions from the director.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's the case, and they're just like, you know, for some fucking reason, my mother knew about the meme about, you know, Jewish babies being beheaded in Israel. Somehow she knew about this.
Does she use TikTok or anything? Facebook?
As far as I know, she has She has a Twitter, and I think she just follows me. Like, there's one account on Twitter that just follows me. I don't know how she knew.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Really good. Loads of people are going to be messing with my mum now on Twitter and be like,
I don't know about. It was on the Jewish baby thing. Slaughter Jewish babies was on Fox News, and that's how my mom found out about it. And she was like, I was over at her house, and she was like, you wouldn't believe this. They're killing the babies, and she's like, they showed pictures of it. They showed pictures as though, you know, and like also my mom and all the rest of the boomers think that photos equal evidence now, of course, because they don't know about AI generated image.
what about TikTok dances?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God. I actually think that this stuff is a little bit of a psyop, because what it does is
just a smidge, just a little bit of a psyop.
Well, no, because like specifically what it does is it takes these issues which younger people don't care about anymore. So like, for example, like, you know, whatever, recessions, wars, big news of the week stuff that young people are tuned out of because they don't trust the mainstream media, and they don't think politics is legitimate or has any, you know, legitimacy to it. So by kind of getting these kind of influencers to kind of filter through the regime narratives into these kind of theater kid modes of expression on these social media platforms like TikTok, they're sort of bridging the gap between like the dinosaur media, the regime narratives, and like the disinterested youth who don't care anymore. They're sort of like infiltrating them. They're going into their nihilism and their apathy, and they're kind of going, okay, you can be nihilistic and apathetic if you want, but you're going to do it this way. You know, you're going to believe this.
It's one of those things where like I said to you, Owen, I like opened a TikTok account just to see what was going on, and I would get like one mukbang TikTok, one of like someone twerking their ass, and one of the latest political thing, like tits out for Israel or whatever the fuck. I don't know what it was, but it was just like
It's totally true. It's totally true, Owen, what you're saying. And I sent this to you like literally 10 minutes before we got on, Sam, but so you probably, I don't think that you saw it, but I wrote about this last year when I read the Schwab Substack about Theater Kid Occupied Government, about The Emancipated Spectator, which is a book by Jacques Rancière. It's a performance studies critical theory text. And I was talking about social media influencers and how if the world stage is full of actors, and then you have like the spectators who are expected to sort of like participate, because that's this is all very like layered and complex. Like participation is a whole other concept that people seeking approval have to participate. People, especially in America, with universities having like these really low acceptance rates that like where you have to have all sorts of extracurriculars. Like people are expected to participate in everything, all aspects of life. But anyway, social media influencers are sort of like one step above the spectators, where they can like sort of participate like for clout. Like they do the online activism so that they get more views because the algorithm will favor that, because the corporations and the media wants them to respond to this or whatever. And it's like, it just enables the playing out of the script. And social media influencers have like it ups their numbers, and then it generates more revenue for them. So that's why they do it. It's bleak.
Do you think there's like, because the kind of idea, because obviously there's a lot of negative sides to this performativity of social media, but do you think there's any potential positive sides to it in the grand scheme of things? Because so like, you know, Jordan Peterson keeps doing these like tirades against anonymity, kind of like these dark triad you know, and I always kind of thought like anonymity, other than protecting your identity from like your employer or someone, like if you say something not supposed to online.
I mean, let me interrupt, Owen. Let me interrupt. I've always been as spicy as I've always been. I've always been my name online. You've not always been your name online.
No, because that's the point I was going to make, because there's something about having like an alter identity, or like a performative identity, where you're like, where you're like, it kind of liberates you a little bit. You're like, you can say something that you think, you can say something that is true maybe, but like you would feel like uncomfortable saying it as you. But when you're your Twitter profile, you've got like liquid courage or like digital courage, and you can kind of say it. And
sure, I mean, it comes back to like, you know, being an aristocrat at a masked ball or something like this. You know, it's all the same sort of thing.
But I don't
know. I feel like you're kind of a coward if you don't go by your own name.
Well, see, that's what Peterson thinks. So
maybe
sorry.
Look, the thing is that if you have anonymity, and the anonymity gives you agency and gives you the courage to say what you actually think, and it also provides you some protection from possibly being fired for having wrong think, like that's one thing, and I can respect that angle for anonymity. And I can also respect the angle of like, well, you're a coward if you don't have your name on things, because you should be able to stand by what you think, and you should be able to like, you know, handle whatever threats or consequences come your way because of that. However, that is still in service to the spectacle. That's still like assuming that you need to participate at all. What I think needs to happen is like,
because I kind of see myself as the main character is the problem, I think.
Yeah, main character syndrome or whatever. But like what actually needs to happen is like what social media is good for is literally for organizing, to put it in a very leftist way.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to I think that it's important to cultivate friendships on, like, I think that it's, you know, the internet affords us these opportunities to create friendships and real bonds with people that are not in our geographical area, which is strong. Like the only way that a counter movement is going to succeed is to have like lots of different nodes around the globe, like in different parts of the world, because like this is like, not to get too skitzed out conspiracy theorists, but like this is a one world government like agenda, and that is really fucked up and scary. And so it's important to have friends and bonds and to like offer opportunities for people to like gather in different areas of the world. And so that's sort of like the purpose of social media, for me at least, in my own project, is like use social media, leverage social media to create the bonds, but then like all of the actual like sort of like my intellectual project, or my like counter movement project, is like happening in my local area, like behind the scenes. I don't want people to, I very carefully vet who I tell about what my actual project is, because I can't have it be a part of the spectacle.
Yeah. So there's like,
to add. Owen, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, what I was saying is that I feel like it's very interesting how lots of the oppositions to the current one world government are like one worldist in themselves. And I think that the things I would advocate for are more particularist, you know. They're like, you know, like you know, unlike the thing that was founded in 1945, I feel like, you know, Britain should go its own way and do its own thing. You know, we should be for our own people. And maybe, you know, I don't know, like maybe, you know, New Mexico should have its own government. I don't know about that. But there is something very strange that's going on. And it feels like, you know, they want to unify us as a planet, which, you know, maybe isn't a bad thing. But it doesn't, I don't like whose purposes does it serve? Does it serve the people, or does it serve certain interests? I don't know.
What were you going to say, Owen? I have a response to that. But...
I can't remember now. Wait, no. No, it's gone. It's gone. It might come back to me in a minute. You go ahead.
So I was in Roswell this weekend for the solar eclipse to watch the solar eclipse. And yeah, of course. And I mean, it was passing right through like that. It was on a diagonal through the state of New Mexico, and Roswell was one of them. So obviously I was going to go down. But I went to the UFO Museum and Research Center. They have a massive library to research the Roswell incident and other conspiracy theories. But we listened to this guy it seems like he was part of the founder organization or founder group who started the museum. And he's been a UFO researcher for most of his life. And he is very deeply suspicious of the government, like very quite conservative, quite, well, just like sort of libertarian maybe. But anyway, his whole thing, he was like, Hillary Clinton scares the hell out of me, and that whole like one world government, new world order scares the crap out of me. And he was like, and he's like, what they may or may not know about aliens and UFOs and extraterrestrials coming down to us. He was like they have to cover that up and they have to keep that in their control. This is what the guy was saying, the lecturer. He was like, they have to keep that under control and keep it under wraps because like they need to unify the planet potentially to like fortify against extraterrestrials who may or may not be like actually threatening to the human race or whatever. So that was interesting. That was an interesting twist on in his lecture.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like, you're scared of a one world government. You've already fucking got it, dude.
I know. It's already here. It's already here.
Already here, man. It's already like.
Do you not think though, like, that we need to fight the international kind of whatever it's called, like the world government, or basically what that stands for is like kind of conspiracy or international cooperation between certain interest groups, which negatively affects everyone else. Do you not think that we need some sort of international response to that? Because like the funny thing today is like that it used to only be Marxists who were the internationalists, but now if you listen to like a right-wing podcast today, you're gonna have like one guy from America, one guy from the UK, one guy from Australia, maybe one guy from like Germany or something, and it seems like everyone's kind of an internationalist now, even if they don't admit it. Like we're all constantly.
It's funny, you say internationalists, but you've mentioned all countries that are white countries. So, also international.
Yeah, but I mean, like it's not like local, super local. It's quite it's still global. It's okay. It's not the whole world, but
this is the diaspora that does not get spoken about. Is the European diaspora,
which found its home in America.
And Australia.
And Australia, the penal colony of Australia.
Yeah, that's where we sent all the criminals. So
it's funny. New Mexico, when Spain conquered Central America, and this was New Spain. New Mexico was the penitentiary for New Spain. So like New Mexico is the Australia of the old world Spanish crown. It's pretty funny.
Is it a desert there? You were like kind of desert area. Yeah. They always go for deserts for the penal colonies. I don't know why. Because like Australia, it's like basically 80% desert as well.
Yeah.
And we're like 40 minutes into it, so no one will ever watch this far. But it's so funny how even the criminals of the white race made better countries than the rest of the planet.
It's true. But to your point, Owen, about like
someone agree with me though.
But to your point, Owen, I think that it is true that like people, I think, yeah, it's true that we're never going to escape a sort of internationalism. Like but that's what I was getting at with like a counter movement is also going to have lots of nodes around the country. But like what anti-United Nations, anti-one world government people, like they unite across international borders to allow themselves the freedom to like then to regain some sovereignty though too. Like I think that is I think that's also true.
Yeah, I like there's kind of a demand to like return to local concerns because if you're constantly tuned into, and this is probably the internet, it's like you're constantly tuned into something which is like being created in another part of the world, and it's not really relevant to your immediate situation, but you kind of get constantly like synchronized into it. But then again, I find like the best commentary and the best analysis about what's going on, even in my immediate world, through the internet. So I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like this double-edged sword the whole time, where you're going into the machine, and you're getting like, you know, I go on Twitter sometimes and I'm just like, why am I listening to this crap? Like this is just ruining my day, and it's got nothing to do with like my immediate concerns. But then other times I'm like, damn, that's like, you know, like I needed to hear that. That was really really true. So, you know, it's the same machine is giving you both illusions and truths at the same time.
The weird thing is that, I mean, we have to be frank about this. I live in Britain. Owen lives in Ireland, and our politics are incredibly influenced by the US situation.
Yeah. And that is something that I don't think that, definitely not the majority of Americans understand that. Like, absolutely not. Because the majority of Americans are like cokeheads. So, or like, you know, and our education system is like a complete failure. So like, there's no conception of outside. Like, I don't think that I realized how much the US influences things until I was like maybe 25 years old. And I'm like I'm part of the minority there of people who actually like understand that. And the problem is too, is that in this theater kid occupied government, and the people who are writing the script, they understand that. And so they understand how much the rest of the world is influenced by US politics. So that's also why they have such a priority for the spectacle. Because it's just like we have to have
why the US government also focuses more on spectacle than actual like substantive stuff, like stuff that actually things, you know?
Yeah. And I was thinking about this also because it's going to be the, I think, 100th anniversary. I think, it's some big milestone anniversary for Route 66, which is the big road that goes through the half of the country. And in 2026, it'll be the anniversary. And I was thinking about this and how like the infrastructure of the United States, again, during the mid-century, right after they become the global superpower, like all of this innovation, and this is like a complaint from a lot of people. Everybody's like, why doesn't the US have any innovation anymore? Why don't we have like any infrastructure built anymore? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, because everything has gone toward, all effort has gone toward concentrating the rest of the, like, to maintaining the spotlight on us. That's why it's all theater kids. It's only about who can create the biggest scene, who can keep all the eyes on us. And you're totally right, Sam. It's just nothing is actually getting done because it's just ensuring that there's more scenes, more things to watch.
If America just stopped doing stuff for like a week, the rest of the world, or not the rest of the world, but like the rest of the Western world, and probably much of the other parts of the world, would really be confused. To be like, well, what do we talk about? Like, what do we argue about? What do we think about?
This is what I'm saying. It's like if China stopped doing stuff for a week,
no one would know
what's going on. Like, where there's no like eBay stuff coming in the doors. If the US stopped doing stuff for a week, everyone would be like confused, but no one would really care, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Because we don't have. Yeah, it would affect. Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't affect the rest of the world. It would probably affect like the States but like also, do you guys in the UK have any grasp of like when the government shuts down?
No, we don't have this.
Well, we hear about it on BBC, but that's
okay.
about
you've got like a hung parliament, right? In Britain, right? Hung parliament.
No, it's very conservative right now.
No, but like it's possible to get hung, and that's basically the equivalent of a shutdown, is it? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like,
what's the question?
In America, they have something called a government shutdown. I'm saying, is that the same thing as a hung parliament? Or is that something completely different? Okay, no.
Hung parliament means that there's not enough people elected to make a majority parliament.
Oh. Interesting.
And what's a shutdown in the US?
A shutdown is when there's no resolution and there's no agreement on passing laws, and specifically around budget allocations, and everybody wants their own their laws and their own like money to go toward one thing, and it's just like too
this is Burnham shit. This is like the managerial elite coming in here and telling us about like
it's totally bureaucratic. Yeah, it's totally stupid.
It's dumb. It's like, I don't care what some bureaucratic twat thinks.
But that's the other thing too, is that nobody cares, and a government shutdown. No, the only the rest of the world shouldn't care about a government shutdown. The only thing that it affects, so many jobs are federal, and so people just like are unemployed and out of work and are not getting paid for however many weeks it takes for them to reach a resolution or a continuing resolution. And so it shouldn't affect people beyond the people who work for the federal government. However, what ends up happening is this spectacle thing. Like, I think, who was it? A senator from like Wyoming, when they were trying to reach a resolution, a senator from Wyoming like came in with a lasso or like a rope to make a lasso, and she was like trying to communicate some message about how she was rounding up like the wild animals of Congress, so like it's all
You theater kids, you did it again. You saved us. Yeehaw, cowboy!
And so it makes that stupid shit makes headlines, and so it makes people care, even though you shouldn't care about the bureaucrats. It just keeps you locked in. It keeps you, when you're like scrolling through Twitter, you have to be very impervious to the psychological warfare that's happening, because it's just, you have to just like, it's like you're dodging, you're like walking through, when you're scrolling through like Twitter or Instagram, it's like you're walking through a mall where everybody's at a kiosk trying to get your attention, where they're like, hey, do you want to buy this like churros? And it's like, some like sexy army girl who's like, do you want to like come be recruited into the army, because there's a lot of sexy women. Like, it's fucked up.
Damn it, that's the clip I didn't download today. Is the one. There's a clip doing the rounds, which is like, it's some Israeli like IDF chick, with her butt out, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The fact that you guys have seen that as well, we are damaged people, all of us.
It was all over my Twitter feed. Like I have the most depraved Twitter feed ever. Like it's just crazy
so
shit.
bad.
Seen too many IDF butts, that's for sure.
And that's
Anyway.
That's the other thing. If it's like leftist Instagram is like, all sorts of like, we need to decolonize Gaza, and like Gaza is being erased and like all this stuff, and it's like very gory, and give all your money to Gaza. And then there's like the other side of it, which is like this hypersexualized Israeli IDF woman soldier. It's really, really bad. So what you have to do is just, you have to be behind the scenes.
Like leftists have any like logical consistency, because they don't. We all know that. So.
What, the leftists?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they don't. No, they don't have logical consistency, but they have consistency over like groupthink. Like, they're all just like posting and reposting what they think should be reposted. Like, everybody is like, everybody wants to post like their little Palestine flag on their Instagram story to signal. It's all, again, a signal that like, I'm following the script, I'm part of the chorus. That's another thing with social media, online activism, is like, it's the Greek chorus in drama.
So here's my theory, and I'm going to put it out here, and we're going to see what happens. But basically, my theory is that the Israeli like particularist stuff is going to be the like end of the left. It's going to be like, because it's going to be the thing that starts World War III as well, because basically like Palestine has to like assert itself, and it's a very leftist thing to do that. And it's one of the things where that more so than anything to do with like COVID or anything like that, like it's going to completely divide the West in terms of leftist stuff, like
I was thinking the opposite. I was actually thinking on the right, because I'm seeing loads of people on Twitter who would be more conservative that I follow, and they're arguing with each other now over the Palestine.
You're correct. You're correct. I mean, yeah. I would say less the left in the West. I would say the West in general is going to tear itself apart over this issue.
It is, yeah.
Half of the crew on the right are like on one side, and half the crew on the left are on one side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just try to kind of avoid talking about it, because it's like, it's not that it's not important. It's just like, because it could be like it could be the boiling point for World War III, but it's just it is such a spectacle, and it seems like just in time for the 2024 election and various other elections in Europe.
Yep.
Where it seems like Democrats are like, how are you going to get in again this time? You every opportunity you have, you just screw it up. well, the opposition just starts arguing over something, and then that's it.
It is right on time for an
I'm
election.
feeling horrible about this as well, and just say that I also don't fucking care.
No, I
Like,
know, and we
My
shouldn't.
country is being invaded by the day.
Yeah.
There are people coming over the British Channel every day. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't care.
Yeah, it's
I-
true. It's true.
I don't want to be like in a war or like be like hurt or anything, but it just pisses me off.
Yeah, and it's the same for America too, because America is also having an immigration
Right,
crisis.
you're in New Mexico, so you must know that
Yeah.
there are these people just appearing.
Yeah, but I would say that like America is having this issue as well. I think that for the UK and Europe in general, it's worse for you guys. The thing that's really, really bad is the enabling drug use in America. It started with like the opiate crisis of pharmaceuticals. Now we have addicts who like cannot, when you're addicted and all you can think about is getting the next dose of heroin that you can take. You can't keep down a job. You can't find stable income. You're going to be homeless forever. And what do people in America do? What do leftists in America consistently vote for? They vote for legalization of drugs. They vote for having fucking safe needles at the public libraries.
Yeah,
Why
crazy.
is there in Albuquerque, there's a public library that just got built.
So Bethany, that's very interesting because I always thought of you as a libertarian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a libertarian?
I would consider myself a pearl clutching libertarian. Because like, I mean, I generally like.
Because you can't in one sentence call yourself a libertarian and in a second sentence be like, oh, I'm annoyed that people are giving away.
I know. I see what you're saying. I know, but like
because that's the journey I went on. That's the journey I went on. I realized that actually most people would do better if their daddy like slapped their wrist once every now and then.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's probably like my trajectory as well, because like I would like for people to be able to do what they want. And I would like to be able to, like have my own separatist, like I'll just have my compound somewhere in the forest and you can like do whatever the fuck you want. But it is true that now we're all like unwilling participants in this reality. And so it's like, okay, maybe I also have to take the side of a more conservative ideology or conservative politics because something has to be done about like it's a full crisis. And why do public libraries have like clean needles? Why do yeah, that's probably my most conservative opinion and the thing, because I get really worked up about that, whereas like a lot of other things I'm a lot more libertarian and I'm just gonna do my own thing and like ensure that I like marshal the talent that I can to be a separatist.
Laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain. They're laundering disinfo and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice or vote. Oh, information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious.
Who like is this performative TikTok-y kind of political?
So I just want to make it clear for the record.
Yeah.
That's Nina Jankovic, and she is like literally she was on the disinformation governance board by the Biden government. And they discontinued that board after they realized how fucking weird it was sounding.
Was that during COVID? Was it
right after COVID?
Right
afterwards. Oh, it's so weird.
Like 2022.
But like, who's the target audience there? Because when I see that stuff,
I feel
like getting sick. And like, even most people that I know personally, I feel like even if they wouldn't be disgusted on it, like they wouldn't really like it. It would be a bit too performative. So it's like, who are they fucking targeting with that shit? Like,
it's for their friends. It's for their friends, man. that's
Yeah.
the thing is like all the shit in Washington's done for people's friends. Same as all the shit in like Westminster in the UK is done. It's done for people's friends. It's not done for anyone else.
So it's not like mass propaganda, like the evening news. You're saying it's like it's kind of more niche, particular signal.
Do I sound fucking stupid? Like,
No,
I mean,
no,
there is a very small group of people who control both countries right now.
I think that,
No, but I mean, like, yeah, true, but their propaganda messaging is not specifically aimed at their friends. Their propaganda messaging is normally aimed at the public.
it's aimed at that propaganda, that TikTok of singing your own disinformation lyrics to fucking Mary Poppins. The people that's for is like the very specific people who were in high school from 2001 to like 2007-ish who consumed media that was all just like flash mobs, a cappella bands, glee clubs. These people who like they have this like crippling nostalgia, and it's mostly like early millennials, people born in the 80s and early 90s, who have this crippling nostalgia for the time in their life when everything was structured and they didn't have to take responsibility for their lives because mommy and daddy cleaned everything up and bailed them out of every crisis. They have these early millennial types participated in show choir and theater, and everything was done for them. They did not have to take responsibility. Now they're of the age, the leadership age, where they should be participating in politics, but they can't. They have too much nostalgia. They short circuit. They don't want to take responsibility for themselves or responsibilities for others, and so they have to, like, they're the ones who are consuming this media, and it lulls them into this. Propaganda isn't even about like propagandizing them. It's about lulling them into like this, okay, I'm safe now. I'm back in the a cappella room. It's fine.
It's like more reassurance and not like you're not trying to convince this random person Trump is evil. You're trying to like reassure somebody who's already on your side, but requires like kind of some sort of emotional comforting or something. Like,
this is the weird thing. It's like these people, they're not the most popular in high school. They're the outcast in high school. This is the inverse of peaked in high school. Like,
yeah,
all these people, they're peaking now because they're in like the theater kid up by government, basically.
Right. That's the thing. That's the problem.
They don't do any sports. They don't do rugby. They don't do American football. What the fuck?
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that like there was a big turn toward, you had the participation trophies in sports where everybody, like, you could just like, even if you didn't win. The problem is, and this is where I get very Ayn Randian about objectivism, like the problem with participation trophies is like you either win or lose a game. And so it's fucking stupid to just like give participation trophies because it goes against objective reality. But then you had like a theater positioned itself as like, well, everybody has a role to play. And even if you don't get cast as the lead character, you might be in the chorus. Or if you don't get cast at all, you can paint the sets and do set design. Like it was this like inclusive, like that already indoctrinated inclusivity into people's minds.
Speaking of theater kids,
yes.
Have you guys ever been in a production before?
Well, yes.
No. Well, like when I was like a little tiny kid, like a Christmas play, like that's the most. It's the most I ever did.
Yeah, I was like I was a paid dancer in productions all the time. But then also in high school, I was in high school productions.
I was one of the 7 dwarfs in a Snow White production one time.
Nice.
Which one?
I feel like it was really weird though, because I was kind of tall for a 7 dwarf. You know what I'm saying?
Which dwarf was it though?
Oh, it's probably ugly or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And
that is interesting though to see the difference in like the ethics between like the theater kids and the sports, because obviously the sports is like there's winners and losers, there's a first, second, and a third, and the theater kids is like everyone's included, everyone gets something. I went to Canada when I was like a kid for like a month because I have like second cousins over there or something for like a month in the summer, and I used to play a lot of tennis when I was a kid. So I went to this like tennis camp tournament thing, and it was like the first one I'd ever won, because in Ireland, like, you had people that were really good and they would always beat me. And then I didn't win it. I didn't win a prize, like, but when they were giving out prizes, the biggest smile, the most improvement, which in this case was literally a kid who I think had like learning disabilities, and like went from like throwing the racket at the wall to like hitting the ball over the net, like the biggest improvement. And it was just like, I couldn't believe how like inclusive and like I was, and they didn't give anyone who won anything any prize. And that was like the opposite to here, where it's like, it was like, you know, where it was like, you know, if you get first, second, third, that's it. Like there's no inclusivity. So that's a really interesting like ethical distinction. And then you have all these theater kids then going into politics and into industries and so on. And now it's like, yeah, they're spreading their fucking crazy ideas everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And this is why we also need to make sure that the Olympics never end, because the Olympics have objective reality. They have objective hierarchy and rankings. This is also why we cannot do the whole like gender neutral athletics. Like, you can't be doing that shit. The other thing too that was interesting for me growing up, like, because I was participating in theater, but
messed up. Why is Bethany the most right wing of us? What's going on here?
I know, I kind of am. But an interesting thing, the other thing that makes me like extremely right wing, this is what I'm gonna explain. I'm
right wing because I believe in objective reality. It's just like the most interesting. Because that's what we are, guys. That's what we are. That
is where we are. And honestly, on this journey between like, okay, am I libertarian? Am I more conservative? Like, reading Ayn Rand has really like, you know, made me think. It stirred a lot of things in my head. But the thing is, being a theater kid is very different than also being a ballet dancer. You go through hours and hours and hours of training. You get abused. I mean, and that's not like necessary. I'm not going to place a value judgment on that. Like, you get hit in ballet class if you're not doing the right thing. Like, they're trying to train you. I was also trained by Russians, so that's like also a whole other thing. But Balanchine dancers are also crazy, but it's very athletic, and you either get the technique or you don't. And so there's no inclusivity in ballet. And there's a problem now, because a lot of people who are running ballet schools now are like, all types of bodies can dance. And it's just like, no, they can't. So yeah, it goes back to the objective reality thing. Like, yeah. And it's sort of like this, I don't know, I sound like a total body fascist right now, but.
Well, like, this for me is the same thing that makes me much more right-wing in this position, because I have some left-wing opinions about, for example, economics, but then what I can't stand.
He's the biggest lefty I know.
No, I'm not.
I don't normally associate with lefties, but unfortunately,
no. But like, it's this specific thing where it's like we can all be winners, and like everyone's included, and like, you know, obese people are beautiful. This stuff to me is just like, it's just like, no, I'll like you know what I mean? Just overthrow the whole system,
yeah,
burn it all down. I don't care anymore. You know, it triggers like it like. It seems to trigger some people that aren't like typically right wing in like every aspect of their politics. This like one specific thing seems to like really, really get to some people, and I can respect that. I can empathize with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something important about it. Like there's something important about like the person who's won the race. Like, you know, like there's something really, really important about that, which is like more, which goes beyond like just like, you know, who won some prize money or who won a stupid medal. Like, there's something kind of like grounds us in our kind of objective social reality or something, you know?
Right. Without that objective reality, you're unmoored.
Mm.
Yeah. So I would call it particularist. Like, you're like, you know, you have to be born in Ireland to be an Irish person. You have to be born in Britain to be a British person.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you're in a position like let's say you're on a plane and the plane crashes into the ocean, and like, you know, someone's drowning and someone's like, I'm a lifeguard, like I can help them, and you're like, we're all lifeguards, you know, I can help them too. It's like, you know, in those situations you're just like, no, shut up. Like, you know, you need like particular merit And if you don't have that, you're all going to drown. Like that's that's just the way I see it as well. You know,
It's like the meme that's like a guy is having a heart attack and the woman is down and she's like, are there doctors here? And someone is like, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor of philosophy or whatever.
yeah, herbal medicines. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. This is where we are.
I want to end. I want to get your thoughts on this, guys. That gerontocracy is not a new thing. Sparta was a gerontocracy. You had to be at least 60 years of age to be part of their council. And basically, you know, I feel there's a big difference between calling someone old and calling someone an elder, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, guys, has made us call the elders, which we should respect, old people?
Wait, so that's interesting. The Sparta was yeah, that makes sense.
Well, they would refer to them like they were oracles, you know, like in the old way. The old,
like probably the society that relied on like muscular youth the most out of any society in human history was actually like run by old people, which is interesting. It was interesting contrast. No, like what I mean, like yeah, like society that was like basically worshiping like able-bodied youth is like run by old people, which is an interesting contradiction. But like I would say old people in our time, though, as you were saying, like as you're hinting to, is a bit different to like we've categorized elderly in this kind of privileged space, you know, like I can't imagine in ancient Sparta you would like give up your seat on the bus. I know they didn't have buses, but you know, would you give up your seat on the bus for like an old person? Would you would you assume respect to an old person? Because we are sort of encouraged to do that today. We're encouraged to, you know, respect old people just by the fact that they're old, or imbue them with some sort of wisdom or life experience. I'm not sure. Like that could be a modern thing, actually. I'm not sure if societies in you know in ancient times did that. They may have imbued like priests with a kind of respect, or like warriors with a kind of respect, or kings with a kind of respect. But like specifically old people, I don't know. Like could be a modern thing.
My take on this is that I think that the respect for old people is probably inherited from ancient times. The thing about elders is you saw someone as an elder who had the wisdom, who had a certain wisdom about the world, a wisdom of lived experience that then functioned to be passed on to people. And so you had elder mentors, and the elders in like a tribal community were people who had specific things to teach the younger people, and there was a class of younger people to inherit that, and who would then take up that role, who would have to go through, you know, maybe a couple decades of learning with an elder mentor, and then they would assume the role because they've graduated through something. I think that was the more ancient relationship between elders and the rest of the community. And then now we have old people because, number one, we've gone through like a strong degrowth, population decline, so there aren't as many young people to inherit things. But then also, like, everything is very atomized, and young people, like I said, want to have their own startup. They want to create their own TikTok channel. They want to collapse into this solipsistic social media clout universe. They're not interested in inheriting anything from the older people. And then also on the gerontocracy side, like why did Dianne Feinstein keep running for Congress into her 90s and dying in politics? Like they also don't want to pass anything on. The elders of our time, they don't want to mentor people. They just want to hold on to, they want to grip power. There is no like reciprocity anymore.
Yeah, I'm actually planning on writing something about boomers, and one of the things that I was going to say was that that they detach their historical, their like self-consciousness, especially when it comes to merit. Actually, we were talking about merit earlier, from like so for example, Christopher Lasch said that sometimes meritocracy can be pretty damaging because you don't perceive your own success as being in any way related to like historical conditions. So for example, with wealth accumulation, like wealth accumulation happens over, hundreds and hundreds of years, in a society. And there was a tendency, he said, within kind of post-war, well, particularly boomers, basically, that they perceive their success within like a career or economic success or social success and so on as being completely abstracted from their society on one hand, but also from history on the other hand, because just before them, 2 world wars happened. And a lot of the kind of Western post-war success was built on the fact that they had won those wars, right? So it's like they've completely abstracted their sense of like success from that. And I think once you have a generation that's done that, and they don't consider their own success or privilege or whatever, not privilege, but success or like prosperity or opportunities to be historically particular, they also just go, well, the future can screw itself too, because like, if we're separate from the past, then why should we consider the future? Why should we say, we have to make decisions which is going to protect the civilization for, our grandkids and our great grandkids, because they're just like individuals abstracted from everything. So fuck the future too.
Yeah, totally. And one more point to add to that, and then sorry, Sam, I know you want to end soon, but the other thing about wealth accumulation and the boomers and all this, boomers are the last generation to understand what it's like for money to actually have value, because they are the last generation to live when we were on the gold standard. And so once the US won, did the Bretton Woods agreement, and then became the global reserve currency, and then 30 years later got off the gold standard to finance war, money lost all value. And now we just print money and it's literally valueless. And so that's also another thing with boomers, where they just like, it's sort of like fuck the future, but also like, who cares about passing down wealth because they can just print more money? And that's a crisis.
And this is an issue that people like yourself, like Bitcoiners, have to deal with, is the fact that, they can actually print money and it still does have value for some fucking reason.
Yeah. But it's gonna, the point at which it can't sustain itself is going to be a major crisis.
Yeah, that will be the end of the US empire, hopefully.
Yeah, and the beginning of the age of Aquarius Bitcoin network empire.
There we go. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yes.
Anyway, I want to play us out. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this. Please just chime in if you want to speak about anything on this. Just tell me to pause it, all right?
You've exposed me to some of the most horrific things on this podcast. I swear to God.
To be honest with you, man, you deserve it.
That's like possibly the worst ad ever. That's like peak crazy.
It's a real perversion of mythology. Mythology serves a function to make imperatives on people that will have a long-lasting outlook, and making propaganda like that.
I'll be frank with you. Like, Mother Nature literally being an overweight black woman is like, come on.
Like some sort of bureaucrat.
I know, who takes meetings.
Yeah.
Mother Nature is like, didn't Nietzsche say something about this? Like Mother Nature being a woman is like being totally feral and like intuitive and not a part of any red tape.
Let's not get on Nietzsche and Julius Evel talking about black women. Let's not do that.
Also, I like the thing I hate most about these ads is the use of this like violin soundtrack in the background. So every time anyone says anything, it's like, and then they say something, and like it makes them sound really profound because the music always stops when they have like a punchline,
Yeah,
it's like forcing you to go, oh wow.
I know, yeah. It's so designed. It's designed in every, like the way a script would be designed to make sure
Yeah.
that the music swells at the right point. Yeah, it's
Theater kid, occupied government. That's what we're living under.
Oh,
Right now.
God. It also shows you how much of a fucking cult Silicon Valley is, you know, because
Oh,
everything
totally.
about that like ad just looks like a cult, like a cult group doing a ritual or something, you know. It's freaky.
Yeah. Just like Biosphere 2. The space
I want to
opera.
know like what the rest of the world is also thinking of this, because like obviously we're criticizing it and joking about it, and I think a lot of people in the West probably would, you know, like we're gonna overthink it, not overthink it. We're gonna analyze it a lot, but like I think a lot of people in the West will kind of go, oh, that's a bit weird, but they won't think too much about it. I want to like show this to like Indian people and to like Chinese people and like Russian people and be like, these people control like half of the communicative structure of the entire Western global hemisphere. These lunatics control like the entire like technological network which we use on a day-to-day basis for everything from banking to workplace meetings to news place to like news everything, journalism, everything. These people, like, it's fucking mental. Think about that. Think about that. Because they're also trying to portray themselves as like, we're just these quirky kind of tech designers. Like, oh, what's next? We're going to put a watch on your ankle that will tell you when to shower. It's like, okay, fair enough. Like, but you also control, like, you know, like there's basically like two tech internet centers in the world. One Silicon Valley, and the other's like China, or like the one that I don't know, the one if Russia has one or whatever. Like they're kind of separate from each other, but like those are the two ones. Europe doesn't have one, so we just use the American one. But like, yeah, I mean, these people like control half of a global system in one way or another. And they're like, haha, lol, we're so funny.
Yeah. It's nothing behind the spectacle.
I think it's dark, man. I think it's dark shit.
It is dark. Yeah.
Oh. Well, thanks for having me on. Thanks for having a theater kid, a reformed theater kid, on to talk about
Confessions of the theater kid.
I'm not convinced myself.
You're not convinced that I'm reformed?
No.
Why? What the fuck? I've thought about this a lot. I do. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. I have to put on a show.
We'll have to see.
I have to sort of put on a show in order to get people behind my movement.
Anyone who laughs at Joe Biden falling over is on our side, I think.
Yeah.
Anyone who brought up Ayn Rand halfway through. You know,
yeah, that's the thing, is like I'm not like I'm like, my sympathies are with the libertarians. I'm not like full libertarian.
Sure. Yeah.
But I had a conversation with Daniel Gardner like 2 weeks ago, and he brought up Ayn Rand like halfway through as well. It's dropped it like a bomb out of nowhere. This keeps happening.
Yeah, Daniel and I recorded another podcast. It's like 2.5 hours long, talking about Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, that was what you wrote up. Yeah, Atlas Shrugged. Yeah. Where people win tennis tournaments and get a fucking gold medal for it, you know?
Exactly.
Yep.
People abide by the objective reality.
Meritocracy, baby.